Join our journey to self-empowerment. Welcome to a transformative journey where you can embrace your authentic self and live free from the weight of others' judgments. Our channel is your sanctuary for discovering how to stop explaining yourself and build a life of confidence, resilience, and purpose. By subscribing, you'll join a vibrant community dedicated to personal growth, where each video offers practical tools, inspiring stories, and actionable steps to help you thrive unapologetically. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss an episode packed with wisdom to empower your life. In this series, once you stop explaining yourself, no one can hurt you anymore. We explore 6 powerful parts, each unveiling principles to reclaim your inner strength. From aligning with your core values and fostering authentic connections to releasing comparison and embracing vulnerability, our content guides you toward a life where criticism loses its sting. Expect heartfelt discussions, real-world examples, and exercises like journaling prompts and mindfulness practices to integrate these lessons into your daily routine. Whether you're navigating societal pressures or seeking deeper self-trust, our videos provide the roadmap to live boldly on your terms. Join us to unlock a world of self-acceptance and resilience. Subscribe today and start building a life where your truth shines unshaken by external judgment. Reclaiming your inner peace through self-awareness and acceptance. The journey to emotional freedom begins with a fundamental shift, the decision to stop explaining yourself to others. This choice is not about withdrawing from connection or dismissing accountability, but about reclaiming your inner peace by grounding yourself in your own truth. By turning inward and embracing practices like returning to your breath, befriending silence, observing without reacting, writing down your burdens, forgiving yourself, and accepting what you cannot control, you create a sanctuary within that no external force can breach. This part explores these 6 principles, weaving them into a cohesive path toward unshakable self-assurance. Returning to your breath. The breath is the anchor of your existence, a constant rhythm that grounds you in the present moment. When you find yourself caught in a whirlwind of external judgments or internal doubts, returning to your breath offers an immediate refuge. It's a simple yet profound act that reconnects you to your body and quiets the mind's chatter. Imagine a moment when someone questions your choices, perhaps a colleague doubts your work, or a loved one challenges your decisions. The instinct is to defend, to explain, to justify. But in that moment, pause. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Hold it briefly and release it gently. This act interrupts the knee-jerk need to respond and shifts your focus inward. By anchoring yourself in your breath, you create a space to choose your response or to choose no response at all. Breathing consciously is a practice of presence. It reminds you that you are enough in this moment without needing to prove anything to anyone. Over time, this practice builds resilience. The opinions of others lose their grip because you're rooted in the steady rhythm of your own life force. No one can hurt you when you're centered in this way, because their words cannot penetrate the calm you've cultivated. To incorporate this into daily life, try a simple breathing exercise. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 6. Repeat this cycle for a minute whenever you feel the urge to explain yourself. This small ritual can shift your perspective, helping you return to a place of inner strength. Befriending silence. Silence is often misunderstood as absence or avoidance, but in truth, it is a powerful ally. When you stop explaining yourself, you embrace silence as a tool for self-preservation and clarity. Silence is not about shutting others out. It's about creating space for your own voice to emerge. Consider a scenario where you're faced with criticism. The natural impulse might be to fill the air with words to defend your position or clarify your intentions. But what if you chose silence instead? By staying quiet, you allow the other person's words to hang in the air, giving them no fuel to escalate. More importantly, you give yourself the gift of reflection. Silence allows you to process your emotions, weigh your thoughts, and decide whether a response is even necessary. Befriending silence means trusting that your actions and character speak louder than words. It's a practice of restraint, but also of confidence. When you don't feel compelled to justify every choice, you signal to yourself and others that your worth doesn't depend on external validation. This shift can be transformative. The person who once sought to hurt you with their words finds their power diminished because you've chosen not to engage in their narrative. To cultivate this practice, start small. The next time someone questions you, resist the urge to respond immediately. Take a moment of silence. Count to 5 in your head if it helps. Notice how this pause shifts the dynamic. Over time, you'll find that silence becomes a source of strength, a reminder that you don't need to explain yourself to be whole. Observing without reacting. Observation is the art of witnessing without being swept away. When you stop explaining yourself, you learn to observe the world, its criticisms, its expectations, its chaos without letting it dictate your response. This practice is about creating distance between yourself and external triggers, allowing you to remain steady no matter what comes your way. Imagine someone makes a cutting remark about your choices. Your first instinct might be to counter, to defend, or to internalize the hurt. Instead, try observing the situation as if you were a neutral bystander. Notice the tone of their voice, the context of their words, the emotions they might be projecting. By observing without reacting, you detach from the emotional charge of the moment. You see the situation for what it is, not what it feels like. This practice draws from mindfulness principles, where you acknowledge thoughts and feelings without letting them control you. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about giving yourself the space to process them. When you observe without reacting, you break the cycle of defensiveness that explanations often fuel. The other person's attempt to hurt you loses its power because you've chosen not to let it pull you into a reactive state. To develop this skill, practice mindful observation in low-stakes moments. For example, when you're in a crowded place, take a moment to notice your surroundings, the sounds, the movement, the energy, without judging or reacting. Gradually apply this to more emotionally charged situations. Over time, you'll find that observation becomes a shield protecting your peace from external disturbances. Writing down what weighs you down. Sometimes the need to explain yourself stems from internal burdens, doubts, fears, or unresolved emotions that clamor for release. Writing down these heavy thoughts is a powerful way to process and let go. It's a private act of self-expression that requires no external validation, making it a perfect complement to stopping explanations. When you feel the weight of others' judgments or your own self-doubt, take a moment to write. This could be a journal entry, a letter you never send, or even a list of thoughts that feel overwhelming. The act of putting words on paper externalizes your inner turmoil, making it easier to understand and release. You don't need to justify these feelings to anyone. This is for you alone. For example, if someone's criticism has left you reeling, write down exactly what they said and how it made you feel. Then explore why it hurt. Often you'll find that their words triggered a deeper insecurity or fear. By naming these feelings, you take away their power to control you. This practice also helps you identify patterns. Perhaps you're explaining yourself to certain people or in certain situations more than others. With this awareness, you can choose to step back and protect your energy. Writing is a form of self-care that reinforces your right to your own narrative. It reminds you that your truth doesn't need to be spoken aloud to be valid. As you release these burdens onto the page, you create space for clarity and peace, making it harder for external forces to hurt you. Forgiving for yourself, not others. Forgiveness is often seen as an act of absolving others. But in this context, it's about freeing yourself. When you stop explaining yourself, you let go of the need to justify your past mistakes or perceived shortcomings. Forgiveness becomes a gift you give to yourself, releasing the weight of guilt or shame that others' judgments might amplify. Consider a time when you felt compelled to explain a mistake, perhaps a decision that didn't turn out as planned. The need to explain often comes from a fear of being judged or misunderstood. But what if you forgave yourself instead? Acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and let it go. This act of self-forgiveness dismantles the power others have to use your past against you. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean ignoring accountability. It means recognizing that you're human, capable of growth and change. When you forgive yourself, you stop carrying the burden of others' expectations or criticisms. Their attempts to hurt you fall flat because you've already made peace with your imperfections. To practice self-forgiveness, try a simple ritual. Write down something you've been holding against yourself. Then write a compassionate response, as if you were speaking to a dear friend. For example, I forgive myself for mistake because I was doing my best at the time and I've learned from it. This practice reinforces your worth, making external judgments less impactful. Accepting what you cannot control. One of the greatest sources of emotional pain is the desire to control how others perceive you. When you stop explaining yourself, you accept that you cannot control others' thoughts, opinions, or reactions. This acceptance is liberating, as it frees you from the impossible task of pleasing everyone. Life is unpredictable, and people's perceptions are shaped by their own experiences, biases, and emotions. No amount of explanation can guarantee their understanding or approval. By accepting this, you shift your focus to what you can control: your actions, your mindset, and your response to the world. For example, if someone misinterprets your intentions, resist the urge to over-explain. Instead, acknowledge that their perspective is beyond your control. Focus on living in alignment with your values and let others form their own conclusions. This acceptance creates a boundary that protects your peace, making it difficult for others to hurt you with their judgments. To cultivate this acceptance practice, letting go in small ways. When faced with a situation you can't control, traffic, someone's mood, an unexpected setback, remind yourself, this is not mine to fix. Over time, this mindset becomes a shield deflecting the pain of external criticism, bringing it all together. These 6 practices: returning to your breath, befriending silence, observing without reacting, writing down your burdens, forgiving yourself, and accepting what you cannot control, form a powerful framework for reclaiming your inner peace. Together, they teach you to trust your own truth and let go of the need to explain yourself to others. When you stop explaining, you stop giving others the power to define you. Their words, judgments, or criticisms lose their sting because you've built a foundation of self-awareness and resilience. This is not about becoming untouchable or aloof. It's about becoming so rooted in your own worth that external forces cannot shake you. Start small. Choose one practice to focus on this week. Perhaps returning to your breath in moments of tension. Notice how it feels to pause before responding. As you grow more comfortable, incorporate the other practices. Over time, you'll find that the need to explain yourself fades, replaced by a quiet confidence that no one can hurt you anymore. Owning your choices with confidence and freedom, the decision to stop explaining yourself is a profound act of self-liberation. It's about recognizing your inherent power to choose your path and stand by it without seeking approval from others. Part 2 explores 6 key principles that reinforce this freedom: embracing your right to choose, accepting the responsibilities of your choices, understanding that no one can live your life for you, living authentically without permission, using silence as a powerful choice, and recognizing the strength in changing your choices. Together, these principles build a fortress of self-assurance, making you impervious to external judgment or harm. You always have the right to choose. At the core of stopping explanations is the recognition that you always have the right to choose. Every moment presents opportunities to decide how you respond, what you prioritize, and who you want to be. This power is yours alone, and no one can take it away. Consider a situation where someone pressures you to justify a decision, perhaps choosing a career path or setting a personal boundary. The instinct to explain often stems from a fear of being misunderstood or judged. But pause and remind yourself you have the right to choose what aligns with your values, goals, and truth. Whether it's saying no to a commitment or pursuing an unconventional dream, your choices are valid because they are yours. This principle is empowering because it shifts the locus of control back to you. Others may offer opinions or criticism, but they cannot dictate your path. By owning your right to choose, you create a mental barrier that protects you from the hurt of external judgment. Their words lose their sting when you're grounded in the knowledge that your choices are yours to make. To practice this, reflect on a recent decision you felt compelled to explain. Ask yourself, did I choose this because it felt right for me? If the answer is yes, reaffirm your right to that choice. Over time, this practice strengthens your confidence, making external criticism less impactful. Every choice comes with responsibility. With the freedom to choose comes the weight of responsibility. Every decision you make carries consequences, and owning your choices means accepting those outcomes without deflecting blame or seeking validation. This acceptance is a cornerstone of emotional resilience. When you stop explaining yourself, you embrace the full spectrum of your choices, both their successes and their challenges. For example, if you choose to prioritize your well-being over a demanding social obligation, you might face disapproval. Instead of justifying your decision, accept that it may not please everyone and stand by it. This ownership disarms those who might try to hurt you with their criticism, as you've already taken responsibility for your path. Recognizing the responsibility of your choices also means learning from them. If a decision leads to an unexpected outcome, reflect on it without self-judgment. What did you learn? How can you grow? This mindset transforms challenges into opportunities, further shielding you from external harm. No one can hurt you when you fully accepted the consequences of your choices. To integrate this principle, try this exercise. After making a significant choice, write down its potential outcomes, both positive and negative. Acknowledge that you're prepared to face them. This practice reinforces your accountability and reduces the need to explain yourself to others. No one can live your life for you. One of the most liberating realizations is that no one else can live your life. Others may offer advice, expectations, or criticism, but ultimately you are the one who walks your path. When you stop explaining yourself, you embrace this truth and let go of the need to align your choices with others' visions. Imagine a scenario where someone questions your life choices. Perhaps a family member disapproves of your lifestyle, or a friend challenges your priorities. The urge to explain might arise from a desire to bridge the gap between their expectations and your reality. But this gap isn't yours to close. Your life is yours alone to live, and no amount of explanation will make others fully understand your unique perspective. This principle empowers you to release the burden of others' expectations. Their judgments cannot hurt you when you recognize that they stem from their own worldview, not your truth. By focusing on living authentically, you create a life that reflects your values, not someone else's blueprint. To embody this practice, affirming your individuality, when faced with unsolicited advice or criticism, silently remind yourself this is my life to live. This simple mantra reinforces your autonomy and protects your peace from external interference. You don't need permission to live authentically. Living authentically means aligning your actions with your true self without seeking permission or approval. When you stop explaining yourself, you claim the freedom to be who you are unapologetically. This act of self-acceptance is a powerful shield against those who might try to hurt you with their judgments. Society often pressures us to conform to explain why we deviate from norms or expectations. But authenticity doesn't require justification. Whether it's expressing your beliefs, pursuing your passions, or setting boundaries, you have the right to live in alignment with your truth. When you embrace this, others' attempts to criticize or control you lose their power. For example, if you choose to prioritize a creative pursuit over a conventional career, you might face skepticism. Instead of explaining why your path is valid, simply live it. Your confidence in your authenticity speaks louder than any words, and it protects you from the pain of external disapproval. To practice this, identify one area of your life where you feel pressured to conform. Ask yourself, what would it look like to live this part of my life authentically? Take a small step toward that vision without explaining it to anyone. Over time, this builds a sense of freedom that makes you untouchable to external criticism. Silence is the highest form of choice. Silence is not just the absence of words. It's a deliberate and powerful choice. When you choose silence over explanation, you assert your autonomy and protect your emotional energy. This act of restraint can be the ultimate expression of self-confidence, rendering others' attempts to hurt you ineffective. Consider a moment when someone challenges your decision or provokes you with criticism. The instinct to defend yourself can be strong, but silence offers a different kind of strength. By choosing not to engage, you refuse to give their words power. Silence communicates that your worth doesn't depend on their approval, and it often disarms those who seek to provoke you. This principle is particularly powerful in heated moments. For example, if someone tries to bait you into an argument, choosing silence shifts the dynamic. It forces them to confront their own words without the fuel of your response. Over time, this practice teaches you that silence is not weakness, but a strategic choice that preserves your peace. To cultivate this practice, intentional silence in low-stakes situations. When someone asks a question that feels intrusive, try pausing before responding or choose not to respond at all. Notice how this shift empowers you. With practice, silence becomes a tool for asserting your boundaries and protecting your inner calm. Changing your choices is a form of power. The freedom to choose includes the freedom to change. Life is dynamic, and your choices can evolve as you grow, learn, and encounter new perspectives. When you stop explaining yourself, you embrace the power to pivot without needing to justify your shifts to others. Sometimes the fear of judgment keeps us locked in choices that no longer serve us. You might hesitate to change careers, end a relationship, or shift your priorities because you dread explaining the why. But changing your choices is a sign of strength, not inconsistency. It shows you're attuned to your growth and unafraid to adapt. When you embrace this principle, others' attempts to hurt you by questioning your changes lose their impact. You know that your evolution is yours to define, and their opinions are irrelevant to your journey. This mindset creates a sense of freedom that shields you from external harm. To practice this, reflect on a choice you've been hesitant to change due to fear of judgment. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to make this change for me? Take one small step toward that change, and remind yourself that you don't owe anyone an explanation. This reinforces your power to shape your life on your terms, bringing it all together. These 6 principles, you always have the right to choose. Every choice comes with a responsibility. No one can live your life for you. You don't need permission to live authentically. Silence is the highest form of choice, and changing your choices is a form of power. Create a framework for owning your choices with unwavering confidence. When you stop explaining yourself, you step into a space where external judgments cannot touch you. By embracing your right to choose, you reclaim your autonomy. By accepting responsibility, you grow from your decisions. By recognizing that your life is yours alone, you release the weight of others' expectations. By living authentically, you align with your truth. By choosing silence, you protect your peace. And by allowing yourself to change, you honor your growth. Together, these practices make you unshakable, ensuring that no one can hurt you anymore. Start by focusing on one principle this week, perhaps choosing silence in a moment of tension. Notice how it feels to stand in your power without explaining. As you integrate these practices, you'll find that your need for external validation fades, replaced by a deep sense of self that no criticism can pierce. Cultivating inner strength through self-trust. When you stop explaining yourself, you embark on a journey of self-trust that fortifies your emotional resilience. This act of turning inward, relying on your own judgment, and letting go of the need for external validation creates an unshakable foundation. Part 3 explores 6 principles to deepen your self-trust, listening to your inner voice, honoring your past experiences, setting boundaries without guilt, embracing your unique perspective, practicing self-validation, and letting go of the need to be understood. These practices empower you to stand firm in your truth, rendering external criticism powerless. By cultivating inner strength, you ensure that no one's judgment can hurt you, as your confidence stems from within. Listen to your inner voice. Your inner voice. Your intuition is a compass that guides you when logic alone isn't enough. It's that quiet nudge that tells you what feels right even when others demand explanations for your choices. When you stop explaining yourself, you prioritize this inner wisdom, trusting it over external opinions. This trust shields you from the hurt of criticism as you're anchored in your own truth. Imagine you're offered a job that looks perfect on paper, great pay, prestige, but something feels off. Friends urge you to take it, questioning your hesitation. The instinct to explain might arise, but instead pause and listen. What is your inner voice saying? Perhaps it's warning you that the role doesn't align with your values or long-term goals. By honoring this intuition, you make decisions that reflect your truth, not others' expectations. Listening to your inner voice requires quieting external noise. In a world of constant opinions, social media advice, societal norms, it's easy to drown out your intuition. But when you trust that inner nudge, you build confidence that no criticism can shake. Others' judgments lose their power because you're guided by a deeper wisdom they cannot access. To practice this, try a daily intuition check-in. Spend 5 minutes in a quiet space, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what do I feel is right for me today? Write down any insights without judging them. Over time, this strengthens your ability to trust your inner voice, reducing the need to explain your choices. When you're guided by intuition, external criticism becomes irrelevant as you know you're on the right path. Honor your past experiences, your life's journey, its highs, lows, triumphs, and mistakes forms a tapestry of wisdom that shapes who you are. When you stop explaining yourself, you honor these experiences as valid and valuable, trusting that they have equipped you to navigate life. This self-trust makes others' attempts to question or hurt you ineffective, as you're rooted in the lessons of your past. Consider a time when you made a mistake, perhaps a failed project or a strained relationship. The urge to explain might stem from a fear that others will judge your worth based on that moment. But your past is not a flaw, it's a teacher. That project taught you resilience. That relationship showed you what you value in connections. By honoring these experiences, you trust your ability to make sound choices even if others don't understand. Honoring your past also means reframing challenges as growth opportunities. Instead of defending a decision that didn't work out, reflect on what it taught you. This shift in perspective builds self-assurance as you see every experience as part of your strength. When others criticize, their words can't hurt you. You've already found value in your journey. To integrate this, create a lessons learned journal. Write about a past experience that felt like a failure. List 3 lessons it taught you and how they've shaped your decisions. For example, my failed business venture taught me to trust my instincts, manage risks, and prioritize self-care. Revisit this journal when you feel the urge to explain yourself. It reminds you that your past has built a foundation no one can undermine. Set boundaries without guilt. Boundaries are essential for protecting your peace, but they often trigger the urge to explain. When you stop explaining yourself, you set boundaries with confidence, trusting that your needs are valid without needing others' approval. This practice shields you from the hurt of judgment as you prioritize your well-being over others' expectations. Imagine a friend who frequently calls late at night, draining your energy. You decide to set a boundary by limiting calls after 9 p.m. They react with frustration, demanding an explanation. Instead of justifying, calmly restate your boundary. I'm not available for calls after 9 p.m. This act of self-trust communicates that your needs matter, and it disarms attempts to guilt or hurt you. Setting boundaries without guilt requires recognizing that your well-being is non-negotiable. Others may push back, but their reaction reflects their perspective, not your worth. By standing firm, you create a space where criticism cannot penetrate, as you've chosen to honor yourself first. To practice this, identify one area where you need a boundary, perhaps with a demanding colleague or an overbearing family member. Write a clear, concise boundary statement like, I need quiet time after work to recharge, so I won't respond to non-urgent messages. Practice saying it aloud, then implement it without explaining. Reflect on how it feels to prioritize your needs. Over time, this builds a habit of guilt-free boundaries, making you impervious to external judgment. Embrace your unique perspective. Your perspective, shaped by your experiences, values, and dreams, is uniquely yours. When you stop explaining yourself, you embrace this individuality, trusting that your way of seeing the world is valid. This confidence protects you from the hurt of criticism, as you no longer seek to align with others' viewpoints. Consider a discussion where someone challenges your opinion, perhaps on a social issue or a personal goal. The instinct to explain might arise from a fear of being misunderstood, but your perspective doesn't need to be universal to be valid. By embracing it, you affirm your right to think differently, reducing the power of others' judgments. This principle is liberating in a world that often demands conformity. Whether it's your approach to parenting, your career choices, or your lifestyle, your perspective is a strength. When you trust it, criticism becomes background noise, unable to shake your sense of self. To embody this, try a perspective reflection exercise. Write about a belief or choice that feels uniquely yours, like pursuing a passion others don't understand. List 3 reasons it resonates with you. For example, I choose minimalism because it gives me freedom, clarity, and peace. Revisit this when faced with judgment to remind yourself that your perspective is enough. This practice reinforces your confidence, making external criticism powerless. Practice self-validation. External validation is fleeting, but self-validation is a wellspring of strength. When you stop explaining yourself, you learn to affirm your own worth, trusting your value without needing others' approval. This self-reliance shields you from the hurt of external judgment as your sense of self comes from within. Think of a time when you sought validation, perhaps after sharing a creative project or making a bold decision. The urge to explain often stems from craving approval. But what if you validated yourself instead? Acknowledge your effort, your courage, your growth. This act of self-validation builds a core of confidence that no criticism can erode. Self-validation can take many forms: celebrating small wins, affirming your strengths, or simply recognizing your effort. For example, after a challenging day, tell yourself, "I did my best, and that's enough." This practice rewires your mindset, reducing the need to explain yourself to others. To integrate this, create a daily self-validation ritual. At the end of each day, write down one thing you're proud of, no matter how small. It could be, "I spoke up in a meeting today," or "I chose rest over overworking." Read it aloud to yourself. Over time, this builds a habit of self-affirmation, making external judgments irrelevant to your worth. Let go of the need to be understood. The desire to be understood drives many explanations, but it's a trap. Not everyone will grasp your choices, and that's okay. When you stop explaining yourself, you release this need, trusting that your truth is valid, even if others don't see it. This freedom protects you from the pain of misinterpretation. Imagine sharing a personal goal like moving to a new city, and someone questions it, projecting their fears or biases. The instinct to explain might arise to bridge the gap, but their understanding isn't your responsibility. By letting go, you free yourself from the cycle of justification, ensuring that their judgment cannot hurt you. This principle is about accepting that others' perspectives are shaped by their own experiences, not your reality. When you release the need to be understood, you focus on living authentically, not convincing others. This shift creates an inner peace that criticism cannot disrupt. To practice this, try a release ritual. When you feel misunderstood, write down the situation and the urge to explain. Then write, "I release the need to be understood. My truth is enough." Tear up the paper or burn it safely as a symbolic act of letting go. Reflect on how it feels to prioritize your peace over others' approval. This builds resilience against external judgment, bringing it all together. These 6 principles, listening to your inner voice, honoring your past experiences, setting boundaries without guilt, embracing your unique perspective, practicing self-validation, and letting go of the need to be understood, form a powerful framework for cultivating self-trust. By anchoring yourself in these practices, you build an inner strength that external criticism cannot touch. When you trust your intuition, value your journey, and affirm your worth, others' judgments lose their power. Their words may come, but they cannot hurt you when you're rooted in self-trust. You become a fortress unshaken by the need for approval or understanding. Start small. Choose one principle to focus on this week, like listening to your inner voice through a daily check-in. Notice how it feels to trust yourself without explaining. As you integrate these practices, the urge to justify yourself will fade, replaced by a quiet confidence. This inner strength ensures that no one can hurt you anymore, as your peace comes from within, not from the world outside. Living unapologetically in a judgmental world, living unapologetically is the ultimate act of self-liberation in a world quick to judge. When you stop explaining yourself, you reject the pressure to conform, embrace your story, and assert your truth without apology. This fearless approach creates a life where external criticism holds no power, as your confidence stems from your authenticity. Part 4 explores 6 principles to guide you in this journey. Rejecting the pressure to conform, owning your story without shame, speaking your truth with confidence, surrounding yourself with supportive energies, finding joy in your own path, and standing firm in your convictions. These practices empower you to thrive unapologetically, ensuring that no one's judgment can hurt you. Reject the pressure to conform. Society often imposes a blueprint for how life should look: career milestones, family structures, or lifestyle choices. When you stop explaining yourself, you reject this pressure to conform, choosing instead a path that reflects your true self. This act of defiance protects you from the hurt of judgment, as you prioritize your authenticity over societal expectations. Imagine you've chosen an unconventional career, like becoming a digital nomad, while peers expect you to climb a corporate ladder. Their questioning glances or comments might tempt you to justify your choice. Instead, stand firm. Your path doesn't need to mirror theirs to be valid. By rejecting conformity, you signal that your worth isn't tied to societal norms, rendering criticism powerless. This principle is empowering because it frees you from the exhausting task of fitting in. Conformity often demands explanations to appease others, but when you live on your terms, their judgments become irrelevant. You create a life that feels true, not one designed to please the crowd. To practice this, identify one area where you feel societal pressure, perhaps in your appearance, career, or relationships. Write down what conforming looks like versus what feels authentic to you. For example, society expects a 9-to-5 job, but I thrive freelancing. Take one small step toward your authentic choice, like exploring a passion project without explaining it. Reflect on how this feels. Over time, this builds a habit of rejecting conformity, shielding you from external harm. Own your story without shame. Your story, complete with its triumphs, failures, and quirks, is a testament to your resilience. When you stop explaining yourself, you own this story without shame, recognizing that every chapter has shaped your strength. This ownership protects you from the pain of judgment, as you no longer feel the need to defend your past. Consider a moment you're tempted to explain away, like a career gap or a personal mistake. Perhaps you took time off to care for family and someone questions your ambition. Instead of justifying, embrace your story. That time built your compassion and resilience. By owning it, you strip others of the power to use it against you. Their criticism can't hurt when you've already found value in your journey. Owning your story also means reframing perceived flaws as strengths. A failed venture isn't a mark of failure, it's proof of courage. A broken relationship isn't a defeat, it's a lesson in self-worth. This mindset shifts the narrative, making external judgments irrelevant. To integrate this, try a story reclamation exercise. Write about a part of your past you felt ashamed of. List 3 ways it's made you stronger. For example, my divorce taught me independent self-love and clarity about what I need in relationships. Revisit this when faced with judgment to remind yourself that your story is yours to define. This practice builds a shield of self-acceptance that no criticism can penetrate. Speak your truth with confidence. While silence is powerful, there are times when speaking your truth is equally vital. When you stop explaining yourself, you learn to express your thoughts and beliefs with confidence, not defensiveness. This clarity ensures that when you do speak, it's on your terms, protecting you from the hurt of others' reactions. Imagine a debate where someone challenges your stance on a personal value, like prioritizing work-life balance. The urge to over-explain might arise to avoid conflict. Instead, state your truth clearly. I value time with my family, and that guides my choices. No further justification is needed. This confidence disarms critics, as it shows you're secure in your perspective. Speaking your truth doesn't mean convincing others. It means honoring your voice. Whether it's setting a boundary or sharing a dream, doing so with conviction signals self-assurance. When others see you're unshaken, their attempts to hurt you with doubt or judgment lose their impact. To practice this, prepare a truth statement for a situation where you often feel pressured to explain. For example, I choose to live minimally because it brings me peace. Practice saying it aloud with confidence, not apology. Use it in a real conversation and notice how it feels to stand in your truth without elaborating. This builds a habit of confident expression, making criticism less daunting. Surround yourself with supportive energies. The people around you shape your environment and influence your need to explain. When you stop explaining yourself, you prioritize relationships with those who respect your autonomy, creating a supportive circle where justification is unnecessary. This curated environment protects you from the hurt of judgment, as you're surrounded by energies that uplift rather than challenge. Think of a friend who constantly questions your choices, like your decision to pursue a hobby over a side hustle. Their skepticism might push you to explain. Now contrast that with someone who celebrates your passions without demanding reasons. The latter creates a space where you can be yourself unapologetically. By choosing supportive energies, you reduce the emotional toll of criticism. This principle isn't about cutting people out, but about prioritizing those who align with your values. It's about setting boundaries with those who drain you and investing in relationships that foster mutual respect. When your circle supports your authenticity, external judgments lose their sting. To integrate this, evaluate your relationships. List 3 people who make you feel seen and respected. Plan to spend more time with them, perhaps by scheduling a coffee date or a call. For those who trigger the need to explain, set gentle boundaries like limiting conversations to neutral topics. Reflect on how this shift affects your peace. Over time, this creates a supportive environment that shields you from harm. Find joy in your own path. Happiness comes from living in alignment with your values, not from meeting others' expectations. When you stop explaining yourself, you find joy in your unique path, whether it's a career, a lifestyle, or a personal goal. This joy becomes a shield, making external criticism irrelevant to your fulfillment. Consider a choice that brings you joy, like gardening or solo travel, but draws judgment from others who don't understand. The instinct to explain might stem from their raised eyebrows. Instead, focus on the joy it brings you, the peace of tending plants or the thrill of exploring new places. When you prioritize this joy, others' opinions fade into the background, unable to hurt you. Finding joy in your path also means celebrating small moments that resonate with you. It's not about grand achievements, but about the daily choices that feel right. This alignment creates a sense of fulfillment that no external judgment can disrupt. To practice this, create a joy journal. Each day, write down one choice or moment that brought you joy, no matter how small. For example, I spent an hour reading today, and it felt nourishing. Reflect on why it mattered to you. Revisit this journal when faced with criticism to remind yourself that your joy is yours alone. This habit reinforces your fulfillment, making external judgments powerless. Stand firm in your convictions. Your convictions, your core beliefs and values are your compass. When you stop explaining yourself, you stand firm in these convictions, even when challenged. This steadfastness protects you from the hurt of judgment, as you're rooted in principles that no one can shake. Imagine a situation where someone questions a value you hold dear, like your commitment to environmental sustainability. They might mock your efforts to reduce waste, tempting you to justify. Instead, restate your conviction: I believe in protecting the planet, and that guides my actions. This clarity shows you're unshaken, disarming their attempt to hurt you. Standing firm doesn't mean being rigid. It means trusting your values while remaining open to growth. When you're clear about what matters to you, criticism becomes noise, not truth. Your convictions anchor you, ensuring that no one's judgment can sway your sense of self. To embody this, write a convictions list. Identify 3 core values like honesty, creativity, or compassion, and why they matter to you. For example, creativity fuels my soul and helps me solve problems uniquely. When faced with judgment, revisit this list to ground yourself. Practice stating your convictions simply, without elaboration in conversations. This builds confidence, making criticism irrelevant. Bringing it all together, these 6 principles: rejecting the pressure to conform, owning your story without shame, speaking your truth with confidence, surrounding yourself with supportive energies, finding joy in your own path, and standing firm in your convictions, form a roadmap for living unapologetically. By embracing these practices, you create a life where external judgments cannot hurt you. When you live authentically, surrounded by supportive people, and grounded in your values, criticism loses its power. Others may judge, but their words cannot touch the joy and conviction you've cultivated. You become a beacon of self-assurance, thriving in a judgmental world without apology. Start with one principle this week, like finding joy in a small choice that feels true to you. Notice how it strengthens your sense of self. As you weave these practices into your life, the need to explain yourself will dissolve, replaced by a bold confidence. This unapologetic way of living ensures that no one can hurt you anymore, as your peace is built on your truth, not the world's approval. Building resilience through self-alignment. Self-alignment is the art of living in harmony with your core values, purpose, and inner truth, creating a life so rooted in authenticity that external judgments lose their power. When you stop explaining yourself, you prioritize this alignment, building resilience that shields you from criticism. Part 5 explores 6 principles to guide you: defining your core values, aligning your actions with your purpose, releasing comparison to others, cultivating emotional independence, practicing mindful decision-making, and celebrating progress over perfection. These practices empower you to live with clarity and confidence, ensuring that no one's judgment can hurt you, as your strength comes from within. Define your core values. Your core values. whether integrity, creativity, connection, or freedom are the bedrock of a life aligned with your truth. When you stop explaining yourself, you make decisions rooted in these values, trusting their validity without needing external approval. This clarity creates a shield against criticism, as your choices reflect what matters most to you. Imagine choosing a career path that prioritizes creativity, like writing over a lucrative but unfulfilling job. Colleagues might question why you'd throw away stability. The urge to explain might arise, but when you're clear on your value of creativity, you don't need to justify. Your choice is valid because it aligns with your core. This certainty disarms critics, as their judgments can't shake your foundation. To define your values, reflect on moments when you felt truly alive or deeply unsettled. Joy often signals values being honored, like connection during a meaningful conversation. Discomfort might indicate a violation, like compromising honesty to please someone. List 3 values that resonate, such as authenticity, compassion, growth. When faced with judgment, revisit this list to ground yourself. For example, if someone questions your decision to prioritize family over overtime work, recall your value of connection. This choice honors what matters to me. Try a weekly values check-in exercise. Review your recent decisions and ask, did I honor my values? If you strayed, adjust one action, like declining a commitment that conflicts with your priorities. This practice reinforces alignment, making criticism powerless. Over time, living by your values becomes second nature, ensuring that no one's judgment can hurt you. Align your actions with your purpose. Your purpose, your reason for being, gives your life direction. When you stop explaining yourself, you align your daily actions with this purpose, creating a life that feels meaningful and intentional. This alignment builds resilience, as criticism cannot disrupt a path rooted in purpose. Consider someone whose purpose is to foster community. They might volunteer at a local centre, despite friends questioning why they waste time on unpaid work. Instead of explaining, they align their actions, organising events, connecting people with their purpose. This consistency reinforces their confidence, making external doubts irrelevant. Your purpose doesn't need to be grand. It could be nurturing your family, pursuing knowledge, or spreading joy. To discover your purpose, ask, what impact do I want to have? Or what makes me feel fulfilled? Write a 1-sentence purpose statement like, my purpose is to inspire others through creative expression. Align one daily action with this, such as writing for 30 minutes or sharing a kind gesture. When others question your choices, your purpose anchors you, deflecting their judgment. Try a purpose audit list, your weekly activities, and note which align with your purpose. For example, if your purpose is learning, prioritize reading over mindless scrolling. Adjust one misaligned action to better reflect your intent. If someone criticizes your focus on personal growth over socializing, recall your purpose. This is how I grow. This alignment makes criticism feel like noise, unable to hurt you. Release. Comparison to others. Comparison to others breeds self-doubt, fueling the need to explain your choices. When you stop explaining yourself, you release this habit, focusing on your unique journey. This shift protects you from the hurt of judgment, as you measure success by your own standards, not others. Imagine seeing a peer's polished social media posts, new car, exotic vacations, while you're saving for a passion project. The urge to explain your simpler life might surface. Instead, remind yourself their path isn't yours. Your journey, perhaps focused on creativity or personal growth, is valid. Releasing comparison frees you from justifying your choices, as you trust your own definition of success. To practice this, try a comparison detox. For 1 week, notice when you compare yourself on social media, at work, or in conversations. Write down the trigger and reframe it. Their success is theirs. I'm thriving in my way. Replace comparison with gratitude for one aspect of your life, like a supportive friend or a small achievement. For example, if someone questions your modest lifestyle, recall a moment you felt proud of your path, like completing a creative project. This shift builds resilience as your worth comes from within. Try a daily gratitude practice. Write one thing you love about your journey, like I'm proud of my resilience. When criticism arises, this focus on your path makes it irrelevant, protecting your peace from external harm. Cultivate emotional independence. Emotional independence means relying on your own sense of worth, not others' approval. When you stop explaining yourself, you cultivate this independence, managing emotions without seeking validation. This self-reliance shields you from criticism, as your peace doesn't depend on external reactions. Picture receiving harsh feedback on a project you poured your heart into. The sting might tempt you to explain your effort. Instead, process the emotion internally. Acknowledge the hurt. Affirm your hard work and let it go. This independence ensures that others' words don't define your value. You're free to feel without justifying your emotions. To build this practice, emotional self-soothing. When upset, pause and name your emotion. I feel disappointed. Comfort yourself as you would a friend. It's okay to feel this. I did my best. This reduces the need to seek validation through explanations. Try a daily emotion check-in journal about one emotion you felt and how you managed it without external input. For example, if someone criticizes your decision to take a career break, process the sting by affirming, I chose this for my growth, and that's enough. This keeps your peace intact, as their judgment can't touch your emotional core. Over time, emotional independence becomes a fortress protecting you from harm. Practice mindful decision-making. Mindful decision-making involves choosing with intention and clarity, trusting your process without needing to justify it. When you stop explaining yourself, you rely on this mindfulness, ensuring decisions align with your values and purpose. This confidence shields you from criticism, as you know your choices are deliberate. Imagine declining a promotion to maintain work-life balance. Colleagues might question your ambition, expecting an explanation. Instead, trust your process. You weighed your priorities and chose what felt right. This mindfulness, pausing, reflecting, choosing intentionally, builds resilience as you're secure in your reasoning. To practice this, use a decision pause technique. Before deciding, ask, does this align with my values and purpose? For example, if considering a new project, reflect on whether it supports your goal of creativity. Write down your reasoning to clarify intent. When others question you, this clarity eliminates the need to explain. Try a weekly decision review list. 3 decisions and why they felt right. For example, I chose to rest instead of overworking because it supports my value of balance. If someone challenges your choice, recall your reasoning. This decision serves my well-being. This confidence makes criticism irrelevant, protecting your peace. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Perfectionism drives the urge to explain mistakes as you fear judgment for flaws. When you stop explaining yourself, you celebrate progress over perfection, valuing growth regardless of outcomes. This mindset shields you from criticism as you prioritize your journey over external standards. Consider a project that didn't meet expectations, perhaps a presentation that fell flat. The instinct to explain might stem from fear of being seen as less than. Instead, celebrate your effort you prepared, spoke up, and learned. This focus on progress builds resilience, as criticism can't hurt when you value your growth. To practice this, create a progress log. Each week, write down one effort you're proud of, no matter the outcome. For example, I tried a new skill, and though it wasn't perfect, I learned. Reflect on how this effort moved you forward. When faced with criticism, like someone questioning a failed attempt, recall your progress. I grew through this. Try a daily affirmation. My progress is enough. Say it aloud after completing a task, like finishing a workout or a work task. This shifts your focus from perfection to growth, making external judgments powerless. Over time, celebrating progress builds a resilient mindset that no criticism can shake. Bringing it all together, these 6 principles: defining your core values, aligning your actions with your purpose, releasing comparison to others, cultivating emotional independence, practicing mindful decision-making, and celebrating progress over perfection, create a roadmap for self-alignment. By living in harmony with your truth, you build a life where external judgments cannot hurt you. When you anchor your choices in values, purpose, and progress, criticism becomes irrelevant. Others may judge, but their words cannot touch the resilience you've cultivated. Your life aligned with your truth becomes a fortress of confidence and peace. Start with one principle this week, like a values check-in, to ensure your decisions reflect what matters. Notice how it strengthens your sense of self. As you integrate these practices, the need to explain yourself fades, replaced by unshakable resilience. This self-alignment ensures that no one can hurt you anymore, as your strength comes from within, not from the world's approval. Thriving through authentic connection. Authentic connections with yourself and others are the cornerstone of a life free from the need to explain yourself. By fostering relationships rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and shared values, you create a supportive network that uplifts your authenticity and shields you from judgment. Part 6 explores 6 principles to guide you in building these connections, seeking relationships that honor your truth, communicating with clarity and respect, letting go of toxic connections, building a community of mutual growth, embracing vulnerability without fear, and nurturing self-connections first. These practices empower you to thrive in relationships that reinforce your resilience, ensuring that no one's criticism can hurt you, as your connections are grounded in authenticity. Seek relationships that honor your truth. Authentic connections are built with people who respect your choices without demanding explanations. When you stop explaining yourself, you prioritize relationships that honor your truth, creating a safe space where judgment has no place. This selective circle protects your peace as you're surrounded by those who value your authenticity. Imagine a friend who questions your decision to pursue a passion project, like starting a small business, insisting you explain your risky choice. Contrast this with someone who celebrates your ambition without needing details. The latter fosters a connection where you can be yourself unapologetically. By seeking such relationships, you reduce the emotional toll of criticism as your circle reinforces your worth. To practice this, evaluate your relationships. Identify 1 or 2 people who make you feel seen, perhaps a mentor who encourages your goals or a friend who respects your boundaries. Invest time in these connections, like scheduling a meaningful conversation. When faced with judgment from others, lean on these supportive relationships to stay grounded. For example, if a colleague criticizes your unconventional career path, recall a supportive friend's encouragement. They see my vision, Try a connection inventory exercise. List your key relationships and note whether they honor your truth. For those that don't, consider setting boundaries like limiting interactions. This builds a network where explanations are unnecessary, shielding you from external harm. Communicate with clarity and respect. Clear, respectful communication sets the tone for relationships where explanations aren't needed. When you stop explaining yourself, you express your needs, boundaries, and values with confidence, fostering mutual understanding. This clarity protects you from judgment as it establishes expectations that respect your autonomy. Picture a scenario where a family member pushes you to attend every gathering, questioning your absence. Instead of justifying your need for rest, communicate clearly. I value our time together, but I need to prioritize rest sometimes. This directness, delivered with respect, reduces the need for further explanation and disarms potential criticism. It shows you're secure in your choices, making judgment less impactful. To build this skill, practice crafting clarity statements. For a situation where you feel pressured to explain, write a concise statement of your position. For example, I'm focusing on my health, so I'll join events when I feel ready. Practice saying it aloud, calmly but firmly. Use it in a real conversation, like declining an invitation without elaborating. Reflect on how it feels to communicate without justifying. Try a weekly communication check-in review, a recent interaction, and ask, did I express myself clearly and respectfully? If you over-explained, practice a clearer response for next time. This habit builds relationships where judgment can't hurt you, as your clarity sets the tone for respect. Let go of toxic connections. Some relationships thrive on judgment and control, triggering the need to explain yourself. When you stop explaining, you recognize and release these toxic connections, protecting your emotional energy from those who seek to undermine you. This act of letting go shields you from hurt as you prioritize relationships that uplift rather than drain. Consider a friend who constantly criticizes your lifestyle, perhaps mocking your minimalist choices or questioning your career shift. Their judgment pushes you to justify yourself, draining your energy. Instead, set boundaries or distance yourself. This doesn't mean cutting them out entirely, but limiting interactions that harm your peace. By letting go, you create space for connections that honor your truth. To practice this, identify one toxic connection, someone who consistently triggers defensiveness. Write down how their behavior affects you, like their criticism makes me doubt my choices. Set a boundary, such as reducing contact or redirecting conversations to neutral topics. For example, let's talk about something else. I'm not discussing my career today. Reflect on how this feels. If the relationship remains draining, consider phasing it out gently. Try a boundary script exercise. Write a polite but firm response for a toxic interaction, like I appreciate your concern, but I'm confident in my path. Practice it to build confidence. This protects your peace, ensuring that toxic judgments can't hurt you. Build a community of mutual growth. A supportive community encourages growth without judgment, reinforcing your ability to live authentically. When you stop explaining yourself, you seek or create groups, friends, colleagues, or mentors who inspire mutual development. This community becomes a shield as it fosters connections where criticism has no place. Imagine joining a local art group that celebrates your creative experiments, unlike colleagues who question your impractical hobbies. This community encourages you to thrive without needing to justify your passion. Whether it's a book club, a professional network, or a volunteer group, a community of mutual growth aligns with your values making external judgment irrelevant. To build this, seek one group that resonates with your interests, perhaps a writing workshop or a wellness community. Attend an event or join online, focusing on connections that feel uplifting. For example, if you value learning, join a study group where questions are welcomed, not judged. Engage actively, like sharing an idea or supporting someone else's growth. Try a community reflection exercise, list groups you're part of, and note whether they foster growth. If not, explore one new community, like a local meetup or online forum. When faced with external criticism, lean on this community for support, like sharing a challenge with a trusted member. This network reinforces your resilience, protecting you from harm. Embrace vulnerability without fear. Authentic connection requires vulnerability, sharing your true self, but not at the cost of your peace. When you stop explaining yourself, you embrace vulnerability without fearing judgment, building trust in relationships that don't demand justification. This openness shields you from hurt as you're secure in your authenticity. Picture sharing a personal goal like starting a podcast with a friend. Their skepticism might tempt you to explain your vision. Instead, embrace vulnerability. I'm excited about this, even if it's a risk. This honesty without defensiveness fosters connection with those who respect your courage. If they judge, their words can't hurt, as you've owned your truth. To practice this, try a vulnerability step. Share one authentic thought or goal with someone you trust, like I'm nervous but excited about changing careers. Do this without justifying and notice their response. If it's supportive, deepen that connection. If it's judgmental, set a boundary. Reflect on how it feels to be vulnerable without explaining. Try a weekly vulnerability journal. Write about one moment you shared authentically and how it felt. For example, I told my friend, I'm prioritizing mental health, and it felt freeing. This builds confidence in vulnerability, making criticism powerless as your authenticity is your strength. Nurture self-connection first. The most important relationship is with yourself. When you stop explaining yourself, you deepen this self-connection, cultivating self-awareness and self-love that anchor you against judgment. A strong self-connection ensures that external criticism cannot shake you, as your foundation is unassailable. Imagine feeling pressured to explain a personal choice, like taking a solo trip. Instead of justifying, check in with yourself. Why does this matter to me? Perhaps it's about self-discovery. By nurturing this self-connection, you affirm your worth without needing external validation. Criticism loses its sting when you're rooted in self-love. To practice this, try a daily self-connection ritual. Spend 5 minutes reflecting on your feelings, needs, or dreams. Ask, what do I need today to feel whole? It could be rest, creativity, or quiet. Act on one need, like taking a walk or journaling. When faced with judgment, return to this ritual to ground yourself. Try a self-love letter exercise. Write a letter to yourself affirming your worth, like I'm proud of my courage to live authentically. Revisit it when criticism arises, like someone questioning your life choices. This self-connection shields you, ensuring that no judgment can hurt you. Bringing it all together, these 6 principles: seeking relationships that honor your truth, communicating with clarity and respect, letting go of toxic connections, building a community of mutual growth, embracing vulnerability without fear, and nurturing self-connection, first create a framework for thriving through authentic connection. By fostering relationships that uplift your authenticity, you build a life where judgment cannot hurt you. When you surround yourself with supportive connections, communicate clearly, and prioritize self-love, criticism becomes irrelevant. Others may judge, but their words cannot touch the strength of your authentic relationships. Your life built on mutual respect and self-connection becomes a sanctuary of peace. Start with one principle this week, like a self-connection ritual to deepen your self-awareness. Notice how it strengthens your resilience. As you integrate these practices, the need to explain yourself fades, replaced by a vibrant network of authentic connections. This ensures that no one can hurt you anymore, as your relationships, starting with yourself, are rooted in truth and respect.